The other day, I made a video in which I updated my experiences with the Ontario Psychological Association, or the OPA, and it ended up being about a 40-minute video. I discussed a whole bunch of different topics, and so what I'm doing is cutting it down into smaller segments. And in this particular segment, I'm going to focus on one of the people who I had interacted with on the listserv that had caused some of the controversy. Now, in the video, I started talking about my interaction with that person, and I kind of went off in different directions, and I never returned to make one last point. Now, I had already spoken about that in my video with Dr. Jordan Peterson, but I wanted to elaborate on it as a standalone video. So here it is. I'm going to cut in and explain afterwards what I had not said in that video. And also, every time I posted anything, publicly and privately, I would have a colleague, or many colleagues basically, write to me and challenge what I was saying. But it's easy to challenge something when you completely mischaracterize what I'm saying. And I want to be very clear here, because this is not me saying, oh, poor me, I was being attacked. I don't mind being attacked. I've been attacked many times in many capacities. That's not the issue. What I do mind is when words are being misconstrued, when other colleagues come in, they see what's happening, and because they themselves are allowing their personal feelings to override their logic, they're not saying, wait a second, that's not what he said. He's clearly laid out his propositions A, B, and C. You're saying he's saying 1, 2, 7. And that's very different. And very few colleagues actually came out and said that. And again, it's not about, oh, why aren't my colleagues supporting me? I don't care about that. But if you're going to step back and not say that, then you better not come in and do the same thing and think that you're being, let's say, righteous in doing that. And you also better not come in and start saying, hey, people, can't we all just get along? Why don't we aspire to these types of behaviors on the listserv? Now, I've got no problem with that, because I think that's proper to do. I think it's important to be able to be civil, courteous, respectful, try to find consensus. That's not a problem. But the last person who said that, they put that post out there after the discussion was also already shut down. The president, Dr. Sylvain Roy, had come in and said, look, guys, this is getting too much. Let's shut it down. Now, you may disagree with him shutting it down. I disagree with it for sure. I think he should have stepped back and let it play out because we're all adults. But he did it. Fine. So I stepped back. So for someone to come in and do that. So the part that I never end up saying was that the person who made what seemed to be a reasonable call for a respectful and civil discourse comes from OISE. Now, you might recognize that name as the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. Dr. Peterson and I mentioned it in his guest lecture to my class. We also mentioned it during our discussion of my dealings with the OPA. Now, two things to keep in mind. One, OISE is well known for, allowing ideology and agendas to drive the research and the teachings. Now, I'm not trying to denigrate the whole institution, because there are many great departments and professors. But the fact is, more than other institutes, this one has a number of people who don't allow, or who don't have any problem with allowing their biases to drive their work. The second thing is that the person who originally had problems with me, the person who called for a shutdown of the debate in November 2016 at the U of T with Dr. Peterson about trans issues, that person also comes from OISE. They are colleagues. So let's be clear here. Even though it seems like she's saying to everybody, hey, let's calm down, let's be nice, let's be cordial, the real subtext is, and I can tell you, everyone with whom I spoke read it the same way. Basically, she's saying, I don't like what you're saying, Dr. Amate. I don't like how you're saying it. Smarten up. And I would have no problem with that if she had said that directly. At least I can say, okay, what exactly do you have a problem with? Show me where I've said anything inaccurate, false, misleading, offensive, or rude. Then we can have a discussion. But when she ostensibly presents it to the whole listserv, that's what's disingenuous. It's an underhanded tactic. Because here's the thing. When I saw that message, I posted to her publicly and privately, pretty much saying, if you really believe this, then please show further integrity by explicitly stating that your message is not just to me, but is to everybody. Because that everybody contains people who have explicitly said, don't talk about these things. And we're not talking about 5 or 6 months later. We're talking at the very beginning of this, back in November 2016, where they're saying, no, Dr. Peterson should not have a forum to speak about this at all. She needs to call those people out and say, that's not cool. She also needs to call the same people out or other people and say, you know what, you're actually making some libelous comments. You are either willfully or ignorantly saying things about Dr. Amate's intentions, about his words that are not true. And that is not in line with the 5 points that I am asking everybody to emulate. She never said that. So I asked her publicly and privately to explicitly state that. She didn't. She never responded at all. I followed up with a very polite message a few days later, and of course, she didn't respond to it. And that is the way of certain types of people. And I've got very thick skin, and if anyone misconstrues these videos as, oh, poor me, I'm whining, I'm complaining because they're not being nice to me, then you don't know me very well. Anyone who saw my communications on the listserv knows I can handle myself very well. What I'm concerned about is not everybody has the ability to fight back, to try to call people out for this kind of BS, and so they feel disempowered, they feel helpless, hopeless, distressed, because they're saying, what chance do I have? The people in power, they are making all these proclamations that aren't actually true, whether it's about philosophies, whether it's about things like trans issues, or whether it's about my own statements. People are feeling that. They're feeling very disempowered. And it's, again, they're feeling very distressed over all this. And there's nothing they can do about it. So that's why I'm making these videos, and I'm hoping that other colleagues, whether it's psychologists or people in academia or anyone else who does have these positions where they can say the right thing and they can call these people out and they can stop being hypocrites. Because again, this person came out, and I got no problem if she wants to criticize me. But you make damn sure that you call out these other people who are not acting in agreement with what you're trying to promote, which in theory was respectful, civil discourse that allows us to actually have a dialogue. It allows us to see whether we can come to consensus. We hope it allows us to find solutions. And we can't have solutions when there's a lot of hypocrisy, disingenuous tactics, and sometimes pretty violent, hateful tactics as well. So that's why I'm making these videos. And that's why I had a problem with her posting that, which, by the way, don't forget, came after the conversation was already shut down. To me, that takes a lot of arrogance when the president of the OPA says, can we please stop this? And not one, but 2 people come out and go, yeah, but we got one more thing to say. We think that we're able to, to totally breach the rules here and say what we have to say. At least the first person said it directly to me. She was honest about it, and she told me, how she felt. And that allowed me to say, well, here's what I think about what you said, and here's why I believe it's inaccurate. And I listed all the points. But this other person, once again, she was being very disingenuous, pretending this to everybody. And that type of, smile. I would rather have somebody come at me with a knife and let me know that they're coming after me rather than smiling and holding the knife behind them. Because that kind of, again, underhanded tactic is dangerous, and a lot of people don't see it coming, and it really does end up having some terrible repercussions, or consequences on these people who never saw it coming. I've seen it happen in academia. I've seen it happen in the workplace. And I've seen it happen, among friends and colleagues as well in other contexts. So that's why I'm making these videos, and I really hope that people understand why I'm doing it. If you really think it's simply about me going, poor me, wow, they're not being nice to me, you've missed the point.